Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow and I am back with another video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read on the life and death of Aaron Carter. In addition to that, at the end of this video, we're going to also go over the different ways in which celebrities have taken their own life, so to say, and the significance of who they were and how they chose to do that as well. So it's going to be a jam-packed video. I'm really excited that you're here. Thank you for being here. And to everybody that's new, who's not familiar with my work, I am an energy reader and an energy healer. I'm also a channeler, and I am a astral traveler and remote viewer. So the information that was received today on Aaron Carter was done by channeling his energy and first asking if he wanted to be connected to, and then also asking if he wanted to share his life story and the occurrences of what happened when he crossed over. And he was down for it. I'm not sure that I necessarily would have been so eager to touch upon somebody else or like even broach their energy so soon after they crossed over. But once I connected to his energy, I felt relief. He was very relieved to no longer be in his body. And therefore, that indicated to me that there was a level of real disattachment associated to what he had endured in this lifetime, and he was inclined to speak about it. So we're going to first start by talking about his life. Aaron Carter was a recording artist, and his older brother as well, Nick Carter, was a recording artist as well in a band called the Backstreet Boys. So two kids in one family, that within itself is highly unusual. Two kids in one family that have achieved a level of success and fame through recording. Now, what's very interesting about Aaron Carter specifically was that he released his first album when he was, I believe, 7 years old. And then his second album was released when he was 9. That's highly unusual. And one of the reasons that it's highly unusual is that children at that age, for anyone who has kids, if you ask your kids what they want to be when they grow up, their answer can change wildly from like day to day. It could be, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a professional scuba diver, like whatever it is. But to have this so-called clear vision and what you want to do when you're such a young age and to achieve success is highly unlikely. The reason that that happened was not so much a merit to his abilities. What it was connected to was the kind of family that he was born into. And what I mean by that is, in the way that the world works, which many of us regular folk don't necessarily see or don't necessarily understand, is that there is different tiers. Not like tears that you cry, but different tiers as in levels. And we can understand that in our own life and in our own mind. If you go to work, let's say in a corporation, you start at the bottom and you have to work your way up to the top. And maybe you do, and maybe you don't, but you may be like a beginner and there's somebody above you, and then there's a manager and a president, a vice president and a president. So there's very much different tiers in the way that all of society works on a professional level, even more so in the way that it works behind the veil and the way that it works with the systems and organizations that run the entertainment industry. And it's not uncommon in the entertainment industry that the people on top siphon off the energy of the people on the bottom. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go back and you can watch my video, first of all, on the Hollywood industry and the movie industry, and then also on the music industry. What happened with little Aaron Carter and his brother Nick was a little bit different. They didn't access entry into the industry the way that older artists come in. They accessed it because these two little boys, very, very cute looking boys, blonde hair, very, very charming looking, two brothers, were a bit of a delicacy in the industry. And what I mean by that was that there were recordings of what was done to Aaron by his brother Nick. I'm not going to go too much into the detail of it because, first of all, I want to keep this channel in good standing. But Aaron has been very vocal about what was done to him by his family members. You can go back, you can Google it, you can find it, and you can see what he had claimed. Because what he claimed was the truth. That was not a fabrication of facts. That was not a fabrication of reality. What he was speaking about, had actually happened and had actually occurred to him. He was speaking about it, it was a cry for help. Nobody was there to listen to his cry for help. And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, for something like this to have occurred, it was obviously happening on the parents' watch. So the parents knew about it. Not only did the parents know about it, but in this case, the parents had actually organized it. And the success of the two boys was a payment for what the parents had organized the children to do. So the success that Aaron had had when he was a youngster as a recording artist, all the money that was earned as a 7-year-old, as a 9-year-old, obviously as a minor, he may have been the face of it and he may have been the earning component of it, but that was not actually his money. That was payment for what the parents had done. And the reason that the parents had done this is, again, it's very much the tier system and the way that things are organized, which is people don't necessarily have to be in the same class to interact with one another. So you might think, first of all, if you become like a banker, then maybe you're going to have like banker friends. If you're a lawyer, maybe you're going to have like lawyer friends. The way that it works in this kind of industry is that the lower class families were used as toys and entertainment for the upper class families. So they were not going to be hobnobbing together. They were not going to be having birthday parties or at Thanksgiving or anything like that. But the kind of family that Aaron and Nick were born into was the kind of family that was used as toys and entertainment because of their lower class status by these people in the upper class and in the upper echelon. And again, very, very cute boys, blonde hair, brothers, with parents that were amenable to using their children in such a way and then exploiting their talent as well for payment, because that's really what the parents had done here. The way that that showed up for Aaron was that, first of all, he knew that these tapes existed. He knew that they were out there. He was present when these things were done to him, and there was a video camera that was there. So there was no denying what had been done and that there was evidence that was going to live on. And this is going back well over, I would say, 25 years ago. When I was kind of channeling what was done to Aaron, I would say he was probably around 5 or 6 years old. So he was like a little peanut. So this is going back like almost 30 years. So back then, the internet, not really as big and prolific as it is right now. So there was a lot of tapes that were passed around, and there was a lot of tapes that were kept on hand that were like favorites of certain people. What happened is, in the day and age of the internet becoming a big thing, those were then put onto the dark web where they live for all of eternity. And Aaron was very much haunted by this because he knew, again, that the tapes existed, but then also in the industry, and not just in the music industry, in the anything in the entertainment industry, there was always looks like given, there was innuendos, There was little comments that were made, and he very much felt like he could not get away from it, and that he was forever tied and chained to that version of himself. And in fact, he was, because when somebody endures this kind of a trauma, first of all, it's the age that it happened. It was with a family member. It was without his consent. There is not that you can even consent to this kind of a thing at that age, but there's a very clear energetic trauma that is created when this is done. And that energetic trauma, what it does is it keeps the person chained down in a lower vibration and a lower energetic level, because there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with it. Even if they were too young and powerless to say that they do not consent and they do not want this to happen. When a trauma like this occurs, it traps the person in a lower energetic vibration and a lower energetic frequency. So he was, from the get-go, very energetically disempowered because of this. In addition to that, he was disempowered because he understood that these tapes were out there. People were watching it. There was comments and innuendos made about it. He could not escape from this. He was haunted. He was also energetically severed at that time when this first occurred to him, so about 5 or 6 years old. A lot of 5 and 6-year-olds are quite picky eaters, and Aaron was trapped there at the mental and emotional development of about a 5 or 6-year-old, even when he was older and he was in an adult body. He always had issues with his relationship to food because of it. So for him, he could maybe go weeks and just eat like chicken nuggets, or like just eat French fries, or never really developing a refined palate, never really developing a healthy relationship to food. And that is very much why when you look at him, he presented as having a very gaunt appearance. He had this kind of gaunt appearance because of that. He was stuck in the energy of a 5 or 6-year-old child as an adult. Now, what was also very interesting was that he had body dysmorphia because of it. And what I mean by body dysmorphia, it's when a person does not accurately see their body the way that it is. And this will typically show up with a lot of people that will have an eating disorder, for example, where they can be skin and bones, they can be, 100 pounds soaking wet, they can have like their ribs protruding, but when they look in the mirror and they look at themselves, they see somebody that can be obese. And Aaron had this same kind of condition himself, where he had body dysmorphia, but not where he saw an obese person. Every time he would look in the mirror, when he was naked, he would not see the body of a full-grown adult. He would see the body that he had been in, the size of his body when he had been 5 or 6 years old. So that additionally kept him in a very, very low, disempowered state of his being, because he could have been 25 at that time, but he would look in the mirror and he would see the body of a 5-year-old. So energetically, he was very fragmented. He was very much not in himself the way he actually was. He was chained and tied to the version of himself at 5 or 6 years old. So very, very challenging energy for him to overcome going into adulthood. In addition, he was haunted, absolutely haunted. Haunted by this child body that he had, even as an adult, haunted by the knowledge that these tapes were out there, haunted at the memory of what had been done to him, haunted at the knowledge that his parents had facilitated this, and that his parents were not really parents in the way that you would think about like a healthy, loving relationship would be, where you bring a child into the world, you love them, you want to keep them safe, you want to guide them, you want to support them, help them maybe reach their highest potential. the children in the Carter family were not brought into the world with the intention, that intention ever. They were brought into the world as a meal ticket for the family, as a meal ticket for the parents. They were energetically extorted. They were energetically feasted upon. They were energetically disempowered. They were energetically, the way the parents actually came through was like energetic leeches, siphoning off the energy of their children, not seeing their children as people in their own right with their own minds, their own wants, desires. They were looking at their children as an energetic, a form of energetic vampirism, where they could feast off their children, and also where they were getting paid for what was done to their children by the people that were in this same kind of industry, so to say, but at a higher tier. They were at a higher level. And one of the other sisters as well, I think I'm not sure if it was 2001 or 2011, but one of his sisters actually died by overdose as well. The way that drugs work for people that have endured a trauma like this, and also how it pertains to Aaron and not just the sister that died by an overdose, but it's where the drugs are to numb the pain that they are in. And sometimes a person can be in so much emotional distress and emotional turmoil that they're not using the drugs for any purpose or any reason. It's not for the high, it's not for the experience of it, it's just to take away the pain. And the more pain that they're in, the more drugs they're going to end up using and doing to take the pain away. Aaron could not get away from the pain. The drugs that he used really only took like the edge off. And the way it was shown to me, I could literally feel it. Like anybody that has ever had a migraine headache, for example, you know how all-encompassing and intense and debilitating that can be. If you, let's say, didn't have your migraine medication and you just had like Tylenol extra strength, it's not going to completely take away your migraine. It's just going to dull the pain. So drugs was very much a tool for Aaron to dull the pain, but it didn't actually do anything for the pain that he was in. He carried it with him. He was haunted by it. He was forever haunted by the fact of knowing these tapes live on. That was the biggest thing for him. That was the biggest thing that kept his energy chained and kept his energy tied down in a low vibration, even more so than what was done to him. Even more so than the fact that it was done to him by a family member. Even more so the lack of parental guidance he had received. What really, really haunted him and kept him in a low vibration was knowing that these tapes lived on. Now, for Aaron, things really started to shift for him once he became a parent. Actually, time out. I'm going to go back for a brief second because something really connects to that as well. Something I had spoken about in my video on the music industry was that a lot of the male artists, even the ones that start out looking really, really clean cut, and the example that I had given in that video was Justin Bieber. Because when Justin Bieber came on the scene, he was young. He was, I think he was maybe 13. And very, very clean cut little boy, right? You look at him through the years, the evolution of Justin Bieber, not even as an artist, as a person, and the degree in which he is no longer a clean cut individual, where he is very heavily tattooed. And it's on his body. It's not on his face. But very much when you start to see people tattooing themselves up a lot, that serves two purposes. The first one is an attempt for them to reclaim some of the masculinity because they have been so emasculated, these male artists, they have been so emasculated because the way that their energy is siphoned off of them. And that is where someone who is, again, higher up in the industry, higher up in the tier system, will siphon off the energy of somebody who is an up-and-comer, who wants to break into the industry. They will violate them by taking pleasure in their bottom, their backside. And that is a complete violation of somebody. First of all, we're going to go through all of the reasons just in case this is the first time you're hearing a concept like this and you really want to understand it. Number one, if somebody is not a homosexual, that is not the typical way that they would have intercourse with a person. So it's a violation of their sexual preferences. Number two, for a man who is not homosexual, they don't want things going up there anyway. It's a very uncomfortable experience, not just the way it physically feels. It's really a violation. It's also an energetic violation because your kundalini, which is your core soul essence energy, resides like a coiled snake by your lowest chakra. Now the chakra system, again, just to briefly go over it, you have chakras that run up the base of your spine from your tailbone all the way to the crown of your head. You want them ideally, in an ideal state, to be open so that way you can lift your energy up to the crown of your head and you can connect to the divine. But when this is done to somebody, they're hooking into their energetic system and they're pulling their energy down and out of them. So you're energetically enslaving somebody through this methodology by connecting to their energy and pulling it down and out. That's also a way that you can keep somebody in an energetic state of servitude, because the person that has done it to them can always connect energetically and siphon that energy off again. So it's really a way of keeping these up-and-comers in a very disempowered state and never really allowing them to fully rise past a certain level unless, first of all, they do it again with somebody else, or unless they make a deal with the devil, so to say. Now, even more so, take that and apply it even more so when it's done to a child. The younger somebody is, the more pure life force energy they have in them. And you know this if you have kids or if you've ever gone to a playground. You can see that the kids can literally run around for hours on end and the adults are failing to keep up with them. And that is because the kids' life force energy is so much more potent and powerful. So if, for example, somebody wanted to do this with a child, they are getting a much stronger energetic hit than if it is done to a full-grown adult. If you can't do it to a child, the next best thing would be to watch it being done. And what's even more perverse, it's all perverse. It's not like this is a different level of perversity. It's all perverse. But it's also when you're seeing siblings interacting with this kind of energetic exchange or energetic siphoning off. And that is very much also why Nick was the more successful brother, being in the Backstreet Boys, than Aaron. The money was all coming back to the parents. And yes, even the children, they did get to enjoy their money as well. It's not to say they were sold like slaves. They got to keep some of their money as well and enjoy it and play with it. But they were really not energetically in their body enough to enjoy and appreciate it. And if you kind of go online and research the lives of Nick and Aaron, you'll see they've really kind of had their fair share of struggles in their life. And it's definitely because of this. It's an energetic tear that's created in someone's soul body, in their soul connection. It's in their auric field. It's something that other people can see on them. And it's definitely something that energy vampires can sense and connect to these people to siphon their energy off of them. They're very much in a low vibration and in a low energetic state because of it. But this is just to get back to the point of tattoos, because that took like a long detour. But the tattoos is a way of trying to regain somebody's masculinity because of the way that they have been energetically emasculated and energetically severed from their soul core energy. The second reason is, there's actually three reasons I would say, but the second reason is, again, and I've said this in my video in the music industry as well, it's a form of cutting. And it's a form of cutting by proxy. And it's because the way that these people collected the emotional pain and the emotional trauma that they're in is vis-a-vis another person. So they have been traumatized because of something that was done to them. So their way of releasing the trauma or releasing the pent-up energy behind it, when they don't have necessarily the tools to process and transmute the trauma in a healthy way, the way that it is processed and transmuted is through tattoos, which is a form of cutting, so they can release the trauma and the pain associated with it. And the third thing, which is very much connected to Aaron specifically, if you look at like the most recent pictures of him, he did not just have tattoos on his body. He was starting to tattoo his face. And the reason that somebody would choose to do this, and he's not the only one, there's another person as well I'll touch upon. He's not the only one that has done this. When they start to tattoo their face, they're trying to make themselves look as unattractive as possible because they don't want anything done to them anymore. And another person who had done this as well is Presley Gerber. Presley Gerber is the son of Cindy Crawford and Randy Gerber. I know, Mom, I know. My mom's like, you can't say names. I'm just putting a connection here for you, should you choose to explore this, and to look at why somebody like, for example, a Presley Gerber, who was a model, why he would choose to do that to his face. And what might he have been, or somebody like him, what might he have been enduring that would lead to him taking such an action like that? Which is, you're first of all saying goodbye to your modeling career. But why would somebody choose to do something like that? And then connect that now again back to somebody like Aaron Carter, where the tattoos on the body were no longer enough, that he was starting to tattoo his face as well. And why might somebody choose to do that? Was it an expression of the amount of emotional pain that he was in, or was it something deeper? That's for you to explore on your own time. But we're now going to touch into when things really began to change for Aaron. And things started to change for him last year in 2021 when he became a father. Because him bringing a child into the world brought up a lot of fresh wounds that he had been trying so desperately to suppress, which was, first of all, the failings of his parents, the way he had been sold out, the way he had been nothing more than a financial commodity to his family. And it really brought all of that up, and it really woke his energy up big time. So now he was not necessarily so much the severed, disempowered energy that he had been prior to that. He was still severed, he was still disempowered, but it was awakening in him. And you know, even if you don't necessarily talk to your family, you can sometimes feel if the energy is a little bit wonky. You can kind of like maybe tell if something's going on, depending on how often you speak to them or you don't speak to them. You can kind of get a sense for what the energy is. And people around Aaron were starting to get that energetic sensation that something with his energy was starting to change. And then, 2 days before he died, he did this. He tweeted at Kanye West, and I'm going to go to this page here so I can give you verbatim what he had tweeted. 2 days prior to his death, he had tweeted to Kanye West, "Yo, Kanye, let's talk man to man." That was the tip-off, because he was really starting to show up energetically quite differently. And it was in his usage of the word man. So he was, first of all, identifying himself now as a man, reaching out to another man. Now, I'm just going to say, whatever your feelings about Kanye, whatever you believe about him or don't believe about him, Kanye at this time is very much somebody that is in the news. He's a very polarizing kind of individual. And because he has been so outspoken and he has been so much in the media lately, he's really the kind of perfect person if somebody wanted to connect to his status, his social status. I'm not saying if his social status was good or bad, but to say somebody who is just very, very in the news and in the media right now, so he has more of a public status, very much somebody that if you wanted to get your story out, that would be the kind of person somebody might reach out to. Now also, love him or hate him, Kanye has a very alpha kind of energy. And for someone who was, Aaron, for someone who was just starting to wake up to his own masculine energy and was starting to climb out of the emasculated child that he had been, this is the perfect person to reach out to connect to try to get more attention to perhaps what had been done to him and what is perhaps done to other child stars as well. Because now Aaron was becoming like the papa. He was becoming the lion to protect his young son, his cub, in not wanting that ever to happen to his son as well. So he was really awakening and wanted to tag his energy onto Kanye's. So perhaps by connecting with Kanye, this could become more of a topic of conversation. Because in the past, when Aaron had tried to talk about this, this didn't really go anywhere. This didn't really take off. This was like maybe spoken about. It was maybe more considered like allegations of, and then it was brushed aside. You know, it's never really grew legs and gone anywhere. So Aaron was really hoping that by getting in touch with Kanye, this was the part that really that woke everybody up, man to man, because now Aaron was identifying himself as a man. And he was no longer going to be the energetically disempowered individual that he had been prior. He was stepping into himself. So energetically, when that happened, that really cued people off that they had to take Aaron down. So I want to first of all say, for anybody who is wondering, this was not a suicide. And when I did look into the energy of what happened, there was very, very clearly two people. One of them, Aaron had known. And when this person reached out to him, it wasn't like a stranger. But when this person came to his house, he was there with somebody else. And this person was a stranger. But he was let in by Aaron. There was no, you're never going to hear there's a sign of struggle or anything like that. He let them into his home because he knew one of them. These two people went over there with the interest, the specific interest. They knew what they were there to do. They knew what they were going to do. They weren't there to like talk to him. They weren't going to like talk him off the ledge, because energetically he was showing up as a different version of himself. Evidenced by man to man, evidenced by, again, you can feel, anybody that is an energy reader, you can feel when the energy is off. So he was showing up energetically differently. He was showing up as a more empowered version of himself. So they were not there to talk to him. There was no talking to him. It's not like we're going to talk sense into him. They went there knowing that this was going to happen, that they were going to do this to him. And I saw that he was injected in something which knocked him out, and then he was put into the tub. But he was put into the tub so that it would look like he had drowned. And this is where I'm going to start to actually touch upon the other ways in which celebrities have so-called taken themselves off the earth plane. There's symbolism in the way of which a person takes themselves out, in the way in which they commit suicide. Because there's a number of different ways that it can actually happen. So they can either drown in a bathtub or drown out at sea, not necessarily in the bathtub. They can hang themselves. They can overdose. Or they can like jump off a building. Or actually, they can also die by, I guess, suicide with a firearm. Or they can be taken out with a firearm. Either way, the message and with this, the underlying behind the veil message in what is done, there is symbolism in all of it. And we're going to go over all of that, okay? This is like a 2-for-1 video. There's a lot of information that's jammed in here. So first of all, in addition to Aaron, here's a list of celebrities that have died in a bathtub. Whitney Houston, Whitney's daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, Jim Morrison, Judy Garland, and there's a Bollywood star by the name of Sridevi. In addition to these celebrities who have died in a bathtub, there's also a number of celebrities that have drowned not in a bathtub. The first one is from Glee, a young woman by the name of Naya Rivera. There's also Natalie Wood, Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys, Robert Maxwell, who is the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is connected to Jeffrey Epstein, Jeff Buckley, and Brian Jones, who is the founder of the Rolling Stones. So when I started to look into what is the symbolism of drowning, it was shown to me that it's symbolic of a baptism, which I thought was very, very interesting. So first of all, it's not my religion. I don't know a lot about baptism, but I think in my understanding of what a baptism is, it's to say that if somebody has not been baptized, their soul doesn't go to, I think this is right. And if not, please somebody correct me down in the comments below. But if someone is not baptized when they die, their soul doesn't go to God. I think that's what it is. So the fact that all of these people had died in the tub, whether it was, accidental or not accidental, but not by their own hands, kind of accidental, if you follow what I'm saying. So this is first of all to say that the slate is clear, and there is no additional connection or payment or retribution that they are coming for other family members. And I might have to actually do a video on this with Whitney Houston and Bobby Christina Brown, because that's the really, really interesting thing, that it was mother and daughter, but it's to say that there's a clean slate, right? Like water cleanses everything, so it's a clean slate. But it's also to say that this person They wanted them to go with as little trauma as possible. They had to be taken out because of maybe what they knew or what they were going to say, or they were becoming a liability. So they had to be taken out, but they wanted it to be as least traumatic as possible for that soul. So those are the people that are dying in water, or, dying or committing suicide, or whatever it is, right? It's a connection to a baptism that their soul is being released to God. They're giving them to God because they were maybe a more gentle soul, but they still had to go. Because again, when you're dealing with this kind of system and this kind of industry, nobody sees you as a person. You're not a person. You're not like a sentient being with your own thoughts, feelings, hopes, desires, love, pain. You're not seen as a person. You are seen as an ATM card for whoever is above you. So in Aaron's case, it was the family. For anybody else that is in the industry, your likeness is owned and operated by, maybe it's the record company, maybe it's your managers. You sign yourself away. They can use your image, they can use your likeness for any purpose that they want. You are like a ATM card to them. They don't care about you. They don't care if you're having a bad day. When you have to perform, you're getting out there and you're performing. They don't care if you want to sing this song or if you want your image to be crafted in this way or that way. It doesn't matter if you're really a prude and they are crafting your image to be a sex pot. They own you. You are not a person to them. Okay. So again, symbolic of releasing your soul to God. Maybe you weren't trouble for them or not too much trouble, but you had to be taken out nonetheless, right? They don't care that they're killing a life. They don't see you as a life, not you. The artists are not seen as a life. Okay. Then the other way that celebrities can leave the earth plane by their own hands, is hanging. And here's just a few of the people that, when I had looked up hanging, had hung themselves. Fashion designer Alexander McQueen, Anthony Bourdain, Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, David Carradine, Robin Williams, Kate Spade. All of these people had hung themselves. And the symbolism behind the hanging is it's to shut them up. It is because literally you're breaking their neck and it's locking the words inside of them. So it's sending a message to anybody else. Don't be a snitch, because this is what happens to snitches. They sever their ability to speak their truth. Don't be a snitch. That's the symbolism and importance of why somebody hangs themselves. Okay. Then there's also people that OD on drugs. And here's the list of people that have OD'd on drugs. Corey Monteith, Amy Winehouse, River Phoenix, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Prince, and Mac Miller. And I'm sure that there's also more. This is just like a super quick Google search that I had done, and these are the names that had come up. And the symbolism of somebody that has OD'd is that they're out of control and they have to be put down. So this is for the artist who is definitely more trouble. They're more trouble than they're worth. Maybe they're just getting out of control. Here's the thing: if somebody actually has a drug problem, it's really easy to take them out this way, and then to make it look like it was an accidental overdose, because they are known to have a drug problem. So how freaking easy is it to take them out and then just have people who are close to them say, oh, it was a drug overdose? But it's really for those that were out of control and they had to be put down. Literally, like if you put down like a sick and dying animal, this is the same way. They're just not sick or dying. They're just becoming too much trouble and they need to be put down. And again, you might be wondering, like, why would they possibly ever put down somebody that they're looking at as like their own personal ATM card? So here's the thing. First of all, this is a very well-known thing. When an artist dies, their music sales skyrocket because suddenly they're reminded of this person again. They're back in the public eye. And if their catalog is owned by somebody, right? Or even if like they own their own catalog, their record company or their managers or their producer or whoever is on top of them, and there's a hell of a lot of people on top of them, all of those people are cashing in every time there's a sale or that song is even played on the radio. So even more so if an artist is kind of like they haven't really produced anything in a good couple of years, they're not like, their star is not really on the rise as much, great. Because again, they don't see these people as people. They get put down, and then there's a huge increase in sales for these people. It's really, really fucked up. And my new favorite phrase is energetic dysfunction. There's a lot of energetic dysfunction in the entertainment industry. That's definitely what I have come to see. It's bananas, y'all. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else that I want to cover about this. Oh, here's one more thing. Oh, a shooting, right? So I was thinking about this with like Kurt Cobain, and I actually also did a video on Tupac, and Tupac was killed, he was shot. And I didn't look into like shooting. I'm sure there's like a whole bunch of people I could also look into about shooting. If you want to, take the time to do that and comment down below, go for it. But shooting, what's very, very interesting about shooting, a shooting is pure violence. It is about pure power and control. So, for example, somebody who might not want to join the club, they might be taken out by being shot. Kurt Cobain, I didn't look into him, but I'm just gonna say, like, if you want to on your own time kind of look into it, there's a lot of information out there that presents that it may not necessarily be entirely the way that it was kind of like presented to the world, in terms of like what happened to him. But a shooting is very much like about power and control. You are not agreeing to align yourself with us, or you are not agreeing to align yourself with us any longer. You are not following the plan. You are trying to break free, whatever it is. Those are the people that get shot because it's very, very violent. It's very, very visceral. And it's to send a message, a big message. Like, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because the way it just came in right now. The way it just came in right now is like, you can run and you can hide, but they're still gonna catch you. And it's very much about like showing you that they have you, they caught you. So, as always, I hope that you guys have found this super jam-packed video to be interesting and insightful, maybe even thought-provoking. If you have, I would be so happy if you could comment down below or click the like button. And if not, just take what resonates and leave the rest behind. And as always, until next time, stay in the high vibration.